Good afternoon, I'm Rob Boskamp, and you're listening to South Texas Midday. It's Monday, June 30th. Air quality in South Texas was impacted this past weekend and continues to be due to the arrival of Saharan dust. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality forecasted yesterday that higher concentrations of dust and elevated humidity levels led to continued moderate air quality. Conditions continue through today. Recommendations are to stay hydrated, stay inside if possible, and if you have to go out, wear a mask. Southbound lanes of the new Harbor Bridge are now open. The $1.3 billion project is now open to southbound traffic after the Texas Department of Transportation cut the ribbon this past Saturday. Northbound lanes are not expected to open until early next month. The city of Victoria is working on its budget for the next fiscal year. The first budget meeting took place this past Friday inside city council chambers. The estimated $253 million budget includes $25 million for city residential streets and thoroughfares, along with increased funding for the police and fire departments to buy more equipment and vehicles, as well as employee pay raises. The budget will be made official after tax rolls are received at the end of next month. The official budget will then be presented during the August 5th council meeting. Final approval for the fiscal year 2026 budget will take place in September. The city of Victoria is responsible for the upkeep of over 300 miles of roads, including areas like Southwest Bend Jordan and East Basin Streets. If a pothole causes damage to a vehicle, the city does not process reimbursement claims directly. Citizens who notice potholes needing attention can report them through the city's website or by calling the pothole hotline at 361-485-3160. The Texas Supreme Court says plaintiffs who sued utility companies over blackouts during the deadly 2021 winter freeze can move forward with their lawsuits. But KERA's Toluwani Osibamuwo reports they'll have a much narrower legal path to do so.
The state's electrical grid operator ordered Oncor, CenterPoint Energy, and other utilities to cut off power across the state to ease demand on the grid during the winter storm. Thousands of residents and small businesses claim the companies promised intentional temporary blackouts, but plaintiff's attorney Ann Saucer says that didn't happen.
What these companies did was to cut the power off to people for days, causing them to freeze to death.
Justices ruled there's not enough evidence the companies acted with conscious indifference. That's more difficult to prove, but the court's decision will allow the plaintiffs to try. I'm Toluwani Osibamuwo.
2 men convicted in connection with the deaths of 53 immigrants in a sweltering tractor trailer were handed down lengthy sentences in a San Antonio federal courtroom this past Friday. Texas Public Radio's Marian Navarro explains the sentencing comes on the 3-year mark of the deadly incident.
Felipe Orduña Torres and Armando González Ortega were central players in the human smuggling ring that was tied to the suffocation deaths. They were found guilty of several charges earlier this year by a federal jury in San Antonio. A federal judge sentenced Orduña Torres to life in prison, while González Ortega received over 80 years in prison. The incident remains the deadliest human smuggling attempt across the U.S.-Mexico border in modern history. Several other men connected to the case have pleaded guilty to felony charges and are awaiting sentencing. I'm Marian Navarro in San Antonio.
The Supreme Court's decision limiting the ability of lower courts to block executive orders means President Trump's order on birthright citizenship can go into effect in 30 days, at least for now. Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider says a coalition of immigrant rights groups almost immediately filed a class action suit to derail the order again.
The justice's 6-3 ruling didn't say that Trump's order limiting birthright citizenship itself was legal, but rather that the lower court lacked the ability to issue a nationwide injunction on such an executive order.
What it means now is that it's going to be a lot harder to put the brakes on an executive policy.
Immigration attorney Kate Lincoln Goldfinch says people challenging such policies must now go the harder route of pursuing a nationwide class action suit. And in the meantime,
we might see that babies born in Texas to immigrant parents can't get birth certificates or Social Security cards or passports or Medicare.
A group of immigrant rights organizations led by the American Civil Liberties Union filed a class action suit just hours after the High Court issued its decision. I'm Andrew Schneider in Houston.
Central Texas Congressman Greg Casar is blasting the Supreme Court decision concerning birthright citizenship. Texas Public Radio's David Martin Davies reports.
The High Court sided with President Trump. At issue was how lower courts could block Trump's executive order that ended birthright citizenship. Casar called the Supreme Court corrupt, and the ruling was catastrophic for all Americans' rights.
This decision from the Supreme Court should send a chill down the spine of every American.
Kassar said this decision reaches beyond birthright citizenship and immigrant rights.
And by failing to protect this basic constitutional right, the Supreme Court is declaring open season on all of our rights.
In a statement, fellow Democratic Congressman Joaquin Castro also condemned the ruling, saying, quote, "The Supreme Court's ruling sets the stage for Trump's attack on birthright citizenship. It is cruel and un-American." I'm David Martin Davies in San Antonio.
A federal magistrate judge ruled a Palestinian protester from New Jersey should be released from an immigration detention center in North Texas. KERA's Toluwani Osabamuwo reports the magistrate's decision isn't final, but serves as a recommendation to a district judge.
Police arrested Laka Cordia at a Columbia University pro-Palestinian protest last year, but prosecutors dropped the charges against her. Then ICE detained Cordia in March for allegedly overstaying her student visa. She's been at Prairie Land Detention Center about 40 minutes southwest of Dallas since then. An immigration judge granted Cordia bond in April, but the Department of Homeland Security immediately appealed it. That enacted an automatic stay that's kept Cordia in detention. But Judge Rebecca Rutherford ruled Cordia should be released while her case is pending. Rutherford says Cordia's attorneys have made valid claims that her detention and living conditions are unconstitutional. I'm Toluwani Osabamuwo in Dallas.
Who will Texas Democrats pick to be their nominee to run for U.S. Senator? Texas Public Radio reports at a rally this past Friday, 3 of the leading Democratic candidates for that nomination came together to promote party unity.
Over 1,000 people turned out Friday at the rally organized by former Congressman Beto O'Rourke.
If you voted for Donald Trump and you're here, you are welcome. We want you in this coalition.
O'Rourke's been having rallies across Texas, which is fueling speculation that he is priming for another statewide run. But the event became something more when O'Rourke invited San Antonio Congressman Joaquin Castro.
There was a video of a woman outside an immigration court who was being ripped away from her kids. That is not the America that we have worked for. That is not the America that we stand for.
Also invited, Round Rock Representative James Tallarico.
Texas Democrats know how to fight. Whether it was LBJ pushing the Great Society through Congress, or Barbara Jordan impeaching Richard Nixon, or our own Joaquin Castro impeaching Donald Trump.
These 3 progressives are being talked about as candidates running in 2026 for the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senator. If that happens, they would be rivals in what would be a bruising and expensive party primary. But speaking to reporters after the rally, O'Rourke said that's not what this rally was about.
I take a lot of hope in James Tallarico, Joaquin Castro, Colin Allred, who couldn't be here tonight, and I want everyone else to have that same hope.
O'Rourke said it's too soon to be staking out slots on the ballot, but Democrats have a lot of options.
Imagine these guys representing us at a statewide level, in the Senate, as governor, as attorney general, wherever people end up. So that's about as far as I've gotten.
Tallarico said he's not sure what his political future holds and if he will run for Senate or governor or re-election representing House District 52.
We are not rivals. We are on the same team. We are all trying to change the state for the better and bring power back to the people. And so we're going to coordinate and work together.
If Castro decides to run for statewide office, he'd have to give up his congressional seat, and he would have to allow enough time for other Democrats to campaign for the 20th congressional district.
I'll make a decision soon, but in our congressional district in San Antonio, we have incredible elected representatives, as state reps, city council members, and others who I think would be wonderful.
There is a growing sense that the 2026 midterm election is going to be an opportunity for Democrats and could be their best hope to break a 30-year statewide losing streak. The party holding the White House typically loses seats in Congress during the midterms. But Tallarico said it isn't just the presidential midterm curse. Donald Trump is becoming especially unpopular.
The Republican Party is waging war on its own voters. Shutting down rural public schools, shutting down rural hospitals, cutting SNAP and Medicaid. And that doesn't happen without consequences.
But more than that, the Democratic nominee for Senate could be facing off against Republican Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Multiple polls show Paxton leading incumbent Senator John Cornyn by double digits for the GOP nomination. Polling also shows that against a generic Democrat, the formerly impeached Paxton could lose the midterm.
Oh, either one would be great.
Rally attendee Rene Maldonado said he did not have a preference between O'Rourke and Castro running for Senate.
I've been a fan of both those guys for forever. I think they'd be great representing Texas in any capacity.
The deadline for candidates to declare running for office for the midterms is in December. I'm David Martin Davies in San Antonio.
And the Texas State Aquarium celebrated its upcoming 35th anniversary with a special ceremony on North Beach this past Saturday, honoring those who have contributed to its success over the decades. The celebration included a recreation of the iconic starfish from the original 1988 groundbreaking ceremony. The aquarium's story began in the 1960s when a group of civic leaders envisioned bringing a world-class marine facility to Corpus Christi. And that is the latest news and information on South Texas Midday. I'm Rob Boskamp. Your community arts calendar and more is on the way.